What's up, y'all? For those who are new to my channel, welcome. For those who are returning, welcome back. Thank you so much for coming back. For those who don't know, my name is Zipporah Gatling. I am here. I'm here. The past couple of weeks, well, the past week and a half, have been a little difficult for me as a Black woman in America. On top of things that I deal with personally with my mental health, I also have to deal with what is going on in society. It's kind of like the Black experience on steroids. So today I'm going to talk about a demonstration that I went to on Saturday, and I'm going to deal with my hair because it's wash day and I need to kill two birds with one stone. So I'll talk about my hair products and I'll talk about the protest. I'll also insert some pictures that I took and just really like how I felt and how it made me feel. And I don't have all the answers, none of us do, but I don't know. This is like therapy for me. So hopefully you can accept my point of view, and let's get into the video. So before I get started, and I'll be talking to you all while I'm actually dealing with my hair, I am from New York City. I'm from New York, New York. And I guess we'll start back here. I'm from New York, New York, and I'm from Harlem. So I have a bunch of friends. Most of my friend circle is either talking about or participating in the peaceful protests that are happening in New York. There are people who I know who have friends who have been affected, who have been assaulted. It's a lot. But I'm currently not in New York. As of right now, I'm near Auburn, New York, which is upstate, closer to, I want to say, this is leaving, there we go. I'm a really big Shea Moisture fan. My sister used Shea Moisture when she went natural, and I've kind of been married to Shea Moisture since the beginning of my natural hair journey. So I'm literally like, I'm loyal. But in light of the movement, I might get into some new hair products. Think about it as my hair gets longer. But I'm not down in New York, so there's a bit of apprehension. There's a bit of nervousness. I'm scared for my friends. I want my friends to be okay. I want them to be safe. I want them to be healthy. I want them to be happy. But I also want our freedom. So I'm thankful for those who are, boots on the ground, out there doing the daggone thing. What is this? Again, Shea Moisture. It's the kids version because when I went to Walmart, they didn't have the adult version. And a peer of mine at school, when she was there, told me, she was like, they're pretty much the same ingredients. They're just for children and they cost less and they might smell a bit different, but it's the same thing. So I was like, oh shoot, you're racist. And there we go. So whenever they don't have the adult coconut and hibiscus curl enhancing smoothie, I get the one for children because one, it costs less, and two, it's just there. People don't buy it as much. So there we go. And the oil I put on my hair was this Jamaican black castor oil. I like the coconut one because of how it smells. Although my hair hates coconut oil by itself, it doesn't mind it when it's like mixed into things. So yeah. What was I saying? Right, my friends are down there and I'm really thankful for them. for their boots being on the ground and so on and so forth. So up here, the community in Auburn, which is, for people who don't know, Auburn, New York is the chosen home of Harriet Tubman after she bought 63 acres of land up here, and her family is still up here. So Auburn, New York has a very rich history of honoring Harriet Tubman, and there are state buildings, well, not state buildings, but city buildings that are named after her. She has a statue in the middle of the city. It's just a lot with Harriet Tubman. So they pride themselves on being inclusive when it comes to their relationship between white America and black America. They try not to separate the two. So the leaders up here at NAACP, Auburn Public Theater, and a couple of other organizations. I think the Harriet Tubman Boosters is one of the names of the organizations. They decided to do a demonstration. It wasn't a march. There was a march earlier, the Saturday before last. So they did a march, and they decided to do a demonstration. And here's what was different for me from what I had been seeing in New York and in other places. They were because Auburn it's smaller, like New York City, and there's still politics, but they're more inclusive. They were able to contact the mayor. They were able to contact the sheriff and the chief of their police department, and the NAACP spoke. The chair of the NAACP, the vice president of the NAACP for the Auburn chapter, they spoke. There were other leaders that spoke. They created a coalition, and everybody got on a conference call. It's like, we need to do something. We need to do something, but it needs to be organized. It needs to be peaceful. And when I tell you all, I got on the call towards the tail end originally, and I didn't really get on the call to give input. I got on the call to listen and to learn. Because my generation, we're angry, and we want something to change. And that makes sense. That makes all the sense. And especially in New York City, and this is what I use to detangle. Especially in New York City, there is a disconnect between people who create policy and the people. And here, there's not that disconnect. But what I think is so important is that the sheriff and the chief came. And I actually ended up meeting both of them. Very nice guys. Also white. But they came to the event, and they spoke at the event. And also the chair of the education chair in Auburn, he came and he spoke as well. But I met all of these men, and to my understanding, they are dedicated to making sure that the social injustices that are seen in other places don't happen here. And they told the crowd that. And I'll insert some pictures here of what the crowd looked like and who all was in the crowd. And when I tell you, the majority of the people out there were white. We had cars passing by honking in agreement with what we were doing. There were at least like 200 people there, I want to say. And it's COVID-19 right now, so people are being very weary about gathering in public spaces. But there are people who were in the square. There were people who were outside of the square. People who, tried to keep their safe distances. But I tell you, as a black woman, and I wore my afro out that day. I'll insert a picture somewhere in the video of me wearing my afro out. As a black woman, to see all of these people who don't look like me, who don't have to deal with what I have to deal with, stand up in this town in this city that I know nothing about, stand in solidarity with the black community and what we're going through in this country. And I had the privilege of standing next to a family. It was a little girl, her mother, and what seemed like her grandmother. And she asked her daughter, she was like, do you know who Harriet Tubman was? And the little girl knew who Harriet Tubman was, and she was like, good job. But to see that that is so ingrained and instilled in the city, and knowing that it's not ingrained and instilled in other cities that have a large population of people of color, was something that was so reassuring, and that made me hopeful. And after a week of just feeling like I'm not doing enough, I can't do enough, like, Zipporah, you got to do better. Like, Zipporah, what can you do? Zipporah, like, where nothing's going to change. After a week of hopelessness, something as small as that just made me feel like my existence mattered. You know, the existence of my people mattered outside of being lucrative for whoever is bottom line, outside of, building this country. Our existence mattered, and they mattered to people who didn't look like us. And that's that affirmation, that confirmation, that agreeance, like, yo, you're human. I understand that, and don't mind me for being so rough with my hair. It'll be okay. The confirmation, like, yo, you exist, like, you matter, like, you're important, like, your existence matters to us. And being like one of 25 black people there, like that. I'm not exaggerating, I wish I was, but like 25, maybe 30 black people who were there and like stayed for the whole event. It makes me happy, and it gives me hope that like change can come. So it was awesome. There was a structured lineup. My mother was the MC, and we kneeled for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. I was kind of bouncing around taking pictures of people kneeling. I'll insert some of those here. And I got some really beautiful shots of, my mother and another woman and a group of people kneeling. But I also got shots of non-black people kneeling the whole time, sitting, almost as if they were praying to God, like, God, we need revolution, we need resolve, we need a change, we need an answer. And it was a beautiful moment to see people pause and stop with us, not to just stop for us to acknowledge that this moment deserves reverence, and this moment deserves respect. And this moment we need to take to acknowledge what has happened and who it has happened to. So that was super duper important. I always say super duper, but it was hugely comforting as a black woman to be able to sit there and take that in, and just be like, yo, thank you. Like, it's not everybody in Auburn or in the territory or in the surrounding area. Thank you. And the words that the leaders said in the community were heartfelt and were genuine, and they asked the community to hold them accountable. And that's a big thing. Like, a leader can say things to coax the ego or to qualm the fire. Qualm, you have qualms with somebody. Quell the fire. There we go, quell. To quell the fire, and to calm down what's going on. But for them to ask the community the very community that they're in, to hold them accountable for their policing, to hold them accountable for their education and how they're educating their children, to hold them accountable for their policies, to get involved, to vote, those types of conversations that they were having, and things that they were asking of their community to do. And there were, 2 black men who came up and spoke as well. But the fact that the white leaders, the leaders who don't have to deal with this on a daily basis, the leaders who have a constituent, but the majority of their constituents is white, so like they don't have to care. Those leaders, the leaders who are policing, those are the leaders that were asking the community to hold them accountable. And I thought that was really powerful. So the demonstration what I learned from that demonstration was that when there are relationships, and there's a lot of conversation about defunding the police, and I don't disagree at all. I think that police does not need billions of dollars to mistreat the people that they're very so much sworn to protect. And when the systemic issue isn't even completely the police, but it's like, we need more schooling, we need better housing, we need better conditions. There's a lot that the police don't need all that daggone money. But when there are police officers when the people who are in charge of the police are attempting to do better and want to mend the broken relationship that they have with their city, or that they have with their country, or the sheriff or the chief is holding their people accountable and prosecuting, their precinct, and having a relationship with those leaders, and having them outwardly come out and say, like, no, hold us accountable. Like, no, check us. Like, tell us to be better. We need to do better, so help us be better. That is powerful. And that holds weight. And what I wish is that more precincts, specifically for New York, because it's the only place I can really talk of where I've had vivid experience with the police department, that, precincts hold each other accountable. They hold themselves accountable, and they allow us to hold them accountable, because we'll tell them, like, y'all are bugging, and that they listen to us. That they listen to those who are trying to hold them accountable, and that there's penalization for those who don't do what the precinct or what the group collective is sworn to do. Also, demonstrations, and just, I don't think it was violent, because one, the town is its history has always been peaceful. But two, that there was a relationship with the leaders of the protest or the demonstration and the heads of the political parties in the city. There's a relationship. And because they know who's organizing it and who's doing it, and, who's in charge, and because they asked them, there were police officers on top of the parking lot across the street, there were conversations about public safety. And those are important. I know it's harder to manage 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people, standing in one place, but I think that is also possible, to have peaceful protests without the need of barricading them on a bridge or tear gassing them. But that also boils down to, like, the precinct needs to be held accountable. That very precinct where that officer is, or those officers are, and the sergeant who's giving those orders, they need to be held accountable. And just order. Like, these protests, time is of the essence. We don't have the time to plan out everything, every little detail, or make a run of day. Granted, they planned this in about a week, So I think what the younger generation can learn from the older generation is how to organize. And I think what the older generation can learn from the younger generation is a sense of urgency, and possibly new, innovative ways to organize. If we can gel those two strengths together, I think moving forward for our protests and making informed decisions going forward, and informed organizational decisions, and reaching out to certain parties that could possibly help qualm the amount of cases where police are abusive. But police are going to be police regardless. They're going to do whatever the heck they want. We've seen regardless of orders. But having conversations with those who are in charge, and knowing that they're going to be held accountable, and holding those people accountable for holding them accountable, I think is something that can help us moving forward. It was a very powerful and uplifting day. It was extremely draining, very tiresome, but I have hope moving forward as a Black woman, as a woman in this country, as a human being in this world and in the society that we live in, and dealing with the pandemic and mental health and what is going on. I think there's hope. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for taking this time to sit with me. And feel free to like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Instagram, on Twitter. I have other videos for like college students about how to plan graduating, getting a mentor. I'm going to start a series soon about my career, and I just got a book, so I'm going to do a book review soon, and I'm really excited to create content. I'm in a better mental space and a better headspace this week, so I'm going to try to push out what I can with editing and so on and so forth, and the things that I do on like a daily basis. So thank you so much. I love you. Whoever you are, just know that you're loved, and we can do this. We can make the world a better place. It's going to take work, but we can do it. Black Lives Matter. God bless you. Bye.
That cried out for breath. Because it was your voice that cried out from the cross when they lynched your brown-skinned son. Because it was your voice in every black and brown child who asked, why? And your voice that gave those mothers and fathers the strength to persist one more day. Because it was your voice that brought these police officers, our hoped-for allies, to their knees. And your voice that brought hundreds of thousands in protest to their feet. Because it was your voice that refused to be silent and uttered the poetry, the love, the power, the genius of black and brown people in this nation. Because it was your voice that called from the deep and said, let my people go. You hear us because you're here. Kneeling, marching, sometimes dying beside us. You are Emmanuel, God with us. So God, lead us from this place to listen when it's uncomfortable, to speak when it's dangerous, to love like we've got nothing else but love, to topple systems of white supremacy and privilege, to feed our joy and let our joy be our protest too, to protect our children, to get to work, to never, never stop saying their names, to proclaim not just with words, no, but with our actions, our bodies, our presence, Black Lives Matter. Oh God, there's a fire shut up inside our bones, and it's you, God, burning to be free. So maybe, as we pray, maybe it's not, do you hear us? It's, do we hear you? Amen.